岁月静好，难免会遇到风险。为自己，为家人，增添一份保障，美好生活，太平相伴。保险就是保太平。
Session co-hosted by Beyond and China Taiping. This is a roundtable on investment in healthcare industry. My name is Lu Shanshan. I'm from Taiping Innovation Capital Company Limited. In 2022, we saw a lot of new technologies and policies be introduced, affecting the landscape of healthcare, especially with COVID and geopolitical challenges. Our industry are facing a lot of challenges. Despite that, China's healthcare industry will continue to grow. So where should we look at for the new opportunities, and what should we do in order to further grow this industry? We're happy and privileged to have invited several guest speakers for this session. They are Ms. Liu Xiaodan, founder of First Red Capital; Mr. Gu Zheyi, founding partner of HHF; Mr. Zhang Song, founding partner of Cts Capital; and Mr. Wu Qinan, founder and group CEO of New Frontier. First of all, I'll give the floor to Ms. Liu to talk about yourself and your organization. Hello, thank you. My name is Liu Xiaodan. 2 years ago, I founded First Red, and currently our AUM is about 10 billion. Healthcare is an important investment direction for us. Before that, I was in investment banking for about 20 years, focusing a lot on some of the top listed companies in the healthcare industry. Thank you. Now over to Mr. Gu. Hello, everybody. My name is Gu Zheyi. I'm the managing founder of Huaxing Healthcare Fund. Currently, we have about 8 billion in our AUM. Our focus is in the middle to later stage investment, so it's sort of non-mainstream. In the past, we focus on life science as well as medical devices. We help companies in our portfolio, as well as potential industry leaders, to go from 1 to 10. This is what we've been doing in the past couple of years. And for the next stage, we want to help them go from 10 to 100. Thank you. Mr. Zhang Song. Hello, everybody. My name is Zhang Song from Cts Capital. We are focused on life sciences and healthcare. We are a professional healthcare fund. We were founded in 2017, and so far, we've been investing in about 30 projects. Now, 5 of them have been listed in A shares and H shares. Currently, their market cap are over 200 billion RMB. We are also currently managing some of the early growth funds and angel funds in RMB denomination. Currently, our AUM is over 6 billion RMB. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you and learn from you. Mr. Wu Qinan. Thank you. My name is Wu Qinan. I'm the CEO of New Frontier. We are a patient-centric and full life cycle healthcare institution. Four of our major business sectors are, first of all, high-end healthcare professional services with United Family as the core. We have 12 hospitals in first-tier cities in China as well as in Hong Kong, mainly in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, and Hong Kong. We also have rehabilitation hospitals and home-based home-based care services. We have about 100,000 beds that we're managing. And we also do healthcare insurance solutions. We serve about 10 million Chinese patients per year. Thank you. Thank you all for that introduction. Since 2020, the COVID pandemic, international landscape has become more complex. And with this increasingly complex landscape, how can the healthcare industry achieve high quality growth? This is a new question for everyone in the industry. I'd like to turn to Mr. Gu and Mr. Zhang first. In this post-pandemic world, what are some of your challenges and changes that you're facing? Mr. Gu first. In the past 5 years, we see the market as a very growth-oriented one, and we benefited from this growth. About 10 out of our 20 portfolio companies have become listed, and they have also become industry leaders, growing from new entrants. So in terms of M&A, as well as innovation in this industry, people have been talking about this for a long time, 4 to 5 years. But I think the real opportunity hasn't really arrived yet. As this market becomes more incremental into the future, especially with geopolitical tensions, as well as the public healthcare insurance reforms, as well as cost control campaigns that's going on, being an external driver. Previously, a lot of the new technologies are being introduced into China, so that there is a lot of me too and me better type of innovation, and there's a lot of freedom in terms of academic and scientific exchanges. So going forward, innovation is going to be more important. The past 5 years have been a great era for mobility and for exchanges. In the next 5 years, there is going to be new ways of improving productivity and innovation. But in terms of the supply side, things are quite static. And on the supply side, there's been a change that's going to be more like the US and Europe, whereas the market is going to be more dominated by the top players. In the next 5 years, we believe for investment, we need to dig deeper into some of the more high potential top leaders. Thank you. Mr. Zhang, please. So in the past few years, I think there's a lot of changes. There's a lot of things that haven't changed. Since the COVID pandemic, we saw ups and downs. In 2021, there is a lot of overheated activities. In early 2021, we saw a lot of cooling down. So from our perspective, China's life science technologies overall trend of growth hasn't changed. And at this point in time, for investors, people have become more cool-headed and more focused on the need, demand, and clinical needs. So I think this is actually even better for investors. In the second half of 21 and the first half of um, 21, and we face a lot of pressure as investors, especially since the pandemic, that we've felt a lot of changes. So in terms of our investment strategy, we did do some adjustments. To give you a few examples, for example, and there's now some frictions between China and the US, which has impacted our industry, bringing in a lot of uncertainties. But those uncertainties have actually forced us to further improve our industry value chain, which in turn brings in new investment opportunities. And as Mr. Gu mentioned earlier, previously, a lot of innovations come from introduction of cutting-edge technologies from overseas markets. Today, we are seeing more market development based on the local needs. So in the past couple of years, we did feel quite a bit of pressure, but as we see more need for internal circulation, we also saw quite a few local leaders, even though there is a technical gap with their international peers, they are utilizing this window of opportunity to capture the domestic market and gain strengths to lay a solid foundation for them to go global, to gain international competitiveness into the future. So in this process, we saw various opportunities emerging from subsegments. So all of these changes in the past couple of years in the external environment are something that we've felt, but in terms of investment strategy, we also did some fine-tuning, but overall, we are still very resolutely optimistic about China's market, especially in life science technologies. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gu and Mr. Zhang. So with this changeable and complex market, a lot of people are adapting to the changes and be more focused and closer to the industry so that companies are becoming, have more ability to go global. Next, I'd like to go to Ms. Liu. What is your view on the ongoing changes in the industry landscape? What are some of the emerging opportunities? Thank you. I think Mr. Gu and Mr. Zhang provided some great insights. We have a sort of different type of perspective. We are more focused on M&A and later stage investment, and we are more focused on healthcare, but we also look at other industries. So in terms of landscape for investment institutions, there is actually some commonalities, but also some special differences, industry-specific differences. I think that in the future, there's going to be some structural changes in three types of investment platforms. One is the integrated healthcare platforms, and the second is healthcare funds, which both in China and elsewhere are doing well. And the third type is CVC, which is focused on industry empowerment. I think in the future, these three types of institutions will continue to be active. But in the primary market, in the past couple of years, things have been quite heated, and now there are severe challenges going on. Some listed companies, for example, have saw their stock prices going down below their listing price very soon. So this burn rate has become an important metric for investors. If the burn rate is too high, the stock price is not going to be performing very well. So it's time for us to re-examine our investment strategy. For me personally, I think there's going to be opportunities continuing in the following three areas. One is early stage. VC is always going to have opportunities because innovation knows no end. There's going to be interdisciplinary innovation and also innovation in medical devices. So I think there's a lot of growth potential still with early stage investment. And then secondly, for companies that have already been listed, so there are now secondary market opportunities. Breads are more expensive than flour. So there is this trend of integration, which I haven't seen yet. But for those leading companies that I've listed, I think they are doing integration now, but it's a gradual process because it needs the right time and right price. And then the third type of opportunities is those M&A funds that are doing. For a long time in China, VC and PE the boundaries are quite blurred. In other countries, some of the major PEs are actually not very much involved in new drug innovation and other high risk sectors. They are more in the more stable industries. But in recent years, some of the PEs are negotiating with large farmers and also healthcare VCs to engage in healthcare. But still, these PEs strategically are still quite late stage. So I think in the future, there's going to be a more clear-cut delineation from early stage goals and PE. In China, things are going to become more separate. In terms of integration, there's still going to be opportunity. It's not going to be widespread. Unlike in other parts of the world, there's going to be auction, there is PE and industry capital and mature players. In China, many of the entrepreneurs are still quite first generational, so they are quite wavering between, being continuing to run their business versus being sold to others. So I'm focused on being the rainmaker. My role is to be an accelerator to push forward such innovation. There are two types. One is industry capital. So PE in this role would be a helper. And the second type of role is for PE to be a major shareholder. And so there's opportunities for some subsegments in particular. I think in the future, there's going to be differentiation. Of course, we need to be more rational and co-headed. That's only normal. But in the future, I think differentiation will become more prominent in future competition. In the past, a lot of the things are too much red ocean and too competitive. But I think in the future, different players, different investors will focus on their own strengths. So that's my take on what might happen in the future for this market. Thank you so much, Ms. Liu, for your insights. We can feel that a lot of things are happening in this sector, affecting all of the stakeholders. And with these changes going on, VC, PE, and CVC, and industry funds, those, all different stakeholders will be more focused on their specific roles. So as a high quality healthcare service provider, I'd like to ask Mr. Wu, United Family in the past couple of years, has it really adjusted its strategy in the past couple of years? And what's your observation on innovation? So in the past couple of years, we've become more precise in our management. In the past couple of years, we've been running our business in a very healthy way. As a healthcare industry, we are also affected, but not too much by the economic cycles. During the pandemic, we were impacted in Q2, but in Q3, we, compared to previous years, our revenue and profit saw a healthy rebound. And in the past couple of years, we did quite a bit of transformation.
First of all, we go for a specialty department. So our business portfolio can be described as 1+X. So we got a general hospital in each and every city with a specialized hospital dedicated to a specific department. I believe that there are four core in this industry. One is the women's health. It is based on gynecology, but of course it can be extended to other issues related to women's health, including the assisted reproduction, endocrine system diseases or health. There's a favorable growth in this regard. Well, the second area is vaccine and digestive systems of children. The third area is minimally invasive surgery, as well as other surgical operations. So Hemojia is committed many resources in this area. After the adjustment of our business portfolio, the percentage of the minimally invasive surgery accounts for 40% of our total business portfolio, and NSK and chest surgery, digestive systems. Well, all these segments have witnessed really a fairly positive growth in the past couple of years. Last but not least, is tumor. The business space of tumor was not that large in the past, but last year we registered a 70% growth in the tumor business. Early screening, the combination of Western medicine with traditional Chinese medicine. So these are the new medical models or therapeutic methods we apply to the tumor patients. So basically, we group our business around these four cores in our total business portfolio. We also made some geographical adjustment in Beijing. Well, actually, we are promoting Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Hong Kong. Well, actually, this year we were extending our business at a speed unprecedented. We set up 3 hospitals in 3 cities, one in Beijing, and Shanghai and Shenzhen, and one in Hong Kong. So the hospital in Beijing and Shanghai will be a general hospital plus some specialty department. On the Yajiaran Road, we established a rehabilitation hospital. Last year, we opened a women's hospital in Yangchun and Beijing. This year, we're going to set up hospitals for tumor. Well, this year in Shanghai, we're going to set up the 3rd Hemojia hospital. We're going to transform this general hospital into hospitals dedicated to specialty department, and this business transformation really pays off for us. That means we'll be able to put our resources together and focus on unmet medical or clinical demands. So with this business portfolio transition or transformation, our profit time shortened from 2 to 3 years to, I don't know, maybe, well, it's shortened. It's shortened, definitely. So in terms of difficulty, it's very important to retract on some front, to retreat from some front and put your resources together. Well, thank you very much for the sharing of your business growth and development. So can you share with us some information about the innovative medical devices and innovative drugs? I believe there's very good opportunities for collaboration between innovative drugs and private hospitals. Indeed, we engaged in in-depth discussions with pharmaceutical companies and medical devices manufacturers. Well, I believe that these innovative drugs should be covered by high-end insurance policies. And the policyholders, they are able to pay for these very pricey innovative drugs. Last week, we offered a new technology called Eurolift. Well, actually, Eurolift chose to enter into an exclusive collaboration with Mujia. It caters to the high-end patients with a very strong paying capacity and capability. In Beijing, we offered GCP. I believe there should be more combination between medical services and high-end products and innovative drugs, as well as R&D. We'd love to enter into very deep collaboration with other pharmaceutical companies and medical devices manufacturers. As an investment institutions, we are very open to collaboration. We love to make some investment in order to foster the collaboration between the upstream and downstream business. The centralized purchase has introduced a revolution to the medical market. Innovation is always an effective way to establish the kind of barriers to fend off your competitors. So Beyond is a venue where we look forward to the future. So can you share with us one of the most promising directions for the future medical innovation? Let's start from Mr. Liu. Oh, thank you, Shanshan. Well, actually, our investment direction is on the late stage development of healthcare companies. Well, indeed, there are a lot of industrial consolidations in many sectors. Well, PE or fiscal investment or financial investment, they're able to foster the development of this healthcare industries. But in China, we haven't seen any meaningful industrial consolidation. There might be some sporadic cases of cooperation between licensor and licensee, but they're not prevalent phenomena in this industry. We toured around and decided to do some industrial consolidation in life science, especially in the upstream sector of the life stream. Unlike international market where leverage is widely applied, in the Chinese market, there is still much room for industrial consolidation in almost all sectors. We talked a lot about consolidation, but very few of us have tried to do anything related to consolidation. We believe that there's a huge opportunity. Let's say if there is a high growth sector, highly sporadic sector. Even the number one player in this sector still accounts for a very tiny fraction of the total market share. And thirdly, there's an anchor team in this sector in this industry. So well, if the three criteria are met, we love to make some investment in this industry. So in the health sector, we choose to go into the upstream of life science. It is a high growth sector, and of course, and because of the geopolitical issues and other types of factors, we do need some sort of localization or domestication. Oh, if you follow the other life science companies, you can see that their growth pattern is it's a continuous repetition of mergers and acquisition. So these big conglomerate, they continue to devour up other small companies, make a lot of mergers and acquisitions. So this is a set development path for a life science company. Many players in this life science industry came to the realization that even if they can do a very good product, they can't take up the entirety of the life science market. So well, we shareholding and we make some shareholding investment and control the equity of some anchor team. And we started to identify or search for the possible acquisition target. We spend a lot of time in identifying the possible targets. As to medical devices, well, this is the right industry for industrial consolidation. We'll love to see who's going to take the lead in consolidating the industry. If someone stands out as a leader, we'd love to do some supportive work and join his team. Goals and VC, there are a lot of opportunities, as you mentioned, but well, probably these are not the right directions for us because we don't have any expertise in this area. Our strategy is buy and build. I believe that there's a lot of room for us to support these consolidation process. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Xiaodan. Mr. Gu, I concur with Xiaodan. The medical investment, in the area of medical investment, well, we also need to introduce innovation into the transaction model. In the past couple of years, in the past 5 years, we did a few things. Well, first of all, the takeover by the generation 2 from the generation 1. So to help these companies to grow once the leadership of these companies shifts from generation 1 to generation 2. Well, Xiaodan has just mentioned some big companies in the medical devices industry. I believe that M&A is the right way for the development of innovation. So if they've taken that path in China, we'll follow that path sooner or later. There are a lot of cost-efficient, innovative products and assets in the international market. So in the past one or 2 years, we did 3 international mergers and acquisition. Well, we're making this investment because we believe the Chinese market is still a high growth market. So first of all, we can have access to this deal and we can get this deal done. And secondly, we can put these products and devices into the Chinese market. So when some company grow from 1 to 10, you start to think, what next? They become public company, their market value is about 40 billion, 50 billion, but what next? So now we're helping these companies to do some spin-off. These are a popular phenomenon in the Western world. But none of these processes are very easy for us. We have to make some investment personally. We have to do a lot of things personally. But when you're actually at the forefront of the industry, you can feel keenly the ups and downs of the industry, the changes and volatilities of the industry. You need to go into the industry so they can help the fund to do better investment decisions and reduce the cost. Every P is going for synergy. We used to call them well, innovative transaction, buy and build or buy out or whatever. I believe that they will become the mainstay of the transaction model. In terms of the investment direction, we were discussing the strategies with investees. We started to realize that there is an emerging market which is called the biotech. Well, of course, we make some investment of Manzhao, but we're not going to be the shareholder or the controlling shareholder. We're not as bold as Madame Liu. We've witnessed some spillover effect from the biomanufacturing or biotechnology. They can have applications in other industries like agricultural industry. 2 years ago, we started to focus on some new areas like biomanufacturing and commit some resources to establish a team of expertise. Well, I believe that this is an interesting area, but it is still at the early stage. Thank you. Mr. Zhang Song, over to you. Well, thank you. Well, Ms. Liu and Mr. Gu, yeah, they cover quite a range of topics and areas. Well, my fund focused on early and late stage of medical companies. Well, primarily focused on the late stage investment in the health sector. Well, our business model is just like doing some multiple choices in innovative drugs or medical devices or upstream business. We'll divide them into more detailed subsectors. We'll focus on breakthrough technologies and innovative products. If that technology has a practical application, we'll keep an eye on it. Give you some examples. Ms. Liu and Mr. Gu so talked a lot about the upstream in the life science business. Indeed, we made a lot of investment in biological companies. The upstream market in the life science business is expanding very rapidly. Geopolitical tension or whatever other reasons, the domestic companies are trying to replace the imports with local products. In this process, some companies have seized this opportunity and solved many bottleneck problems. So we'll make the right investment at the right time. Well, I believe that the investors are competing with each other. Well, this become an increasingly crowded area. Eventually, in the future, in the downstream, no matter whether it's innovative products or devices or diagnostic diagnosis, we start to feel the chills of the market, and in the upstream, there'll be some growing pressure to foster mergers and acquisitions and industrial consolidation. Mrs. Liu controlled some platforms. Would love to have more collaboration with you in the future. And at the same time, we're looking at some innovative technologies, for example, in the area of CGT, which is a quite active market. Cell therapy has been in the Chinese market for quite some time. It is not a new technology or a new concept.
CGT 领域可以说是经历了一个非常快速的发展尤其是以美欧为主这个
So especially in the US and Europe, in 2021, we saw that about 10 genetic and therapy medicines were approved. And I think in 2022, this is likely to continue to be the same level. And we see a lot of companies becoming more mature. And coming back to China, in 2017 and 18, as genetic technologies, especially gene editing, have been growing, we saw an increasing level of opportunity in this industry, especially when there is less opportunities in the downstream. We can work with CDMO and CRO in the upstream to do more observation. So in the past couple of years, we saw rapid growth globally and also in China with CGT. So we've been continuing to invest in this area. And we are also trying to capture more opportunities, especially seeing opportunities in other places. We can achieve more synergy here in China. So that's just my 2 cents. I think Ms. Liu and Mr. Gu had already shared a lot of their insights. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Wu. So from a corporate perspective, we are also thinking about integration and consolidation. So in the past, M&A was not at the core of our business, but this year, we've been working on some M&A. For example, in Beijing and Shanghai this year, the 2 new hospitals that we opened were acquired in Dongcheng District in Beijing and in Jing'an District in Shanghai. We acquired 2 hospitals to become part of our group because we see there is greater need for high quality medical services. And we also saw some good targets that are great opportunities for us to accelerate our growth through acquisition. And in the process of acquisition, we can also help them improve their operational efficiency. Rehabilitation is a core focus of our growth. So this year, we also acquired Xiangya Boai Rehabilitation Hospital in Changsha and Wuhan. And during the pandemic, these have been great opportunities for us. And these are actually Class 3A hospitals, national centers for rehabilitation. So these are great addition for us in terms of our capability. In terms of home-based care, we're also doing some smaller acquisitions. And in the process of doing so, we are also seeing some emerging opportunities, for example, in the supply chain. And for example, with UHF, and previously we only did integration with equipment, but this year we also started to work in consumables, security, and paperless operations, headquarters, and local market integration. So far, our initial estimate of cost reduction is very significant, 70 million RMB. So with this new system, our efficiency has also improved despite greater pressures from the external environment in terms of cost reduction. With integration and consolidation, we are able to cope with such pressures and identify new opportunities. And we've been actively seeking similar opportunities recently. Understood. Thank you so much for your great insights. As we can all see, innovation and investment opportunities in this healthcare industry include strategies such as buy and build with first red and also F+D, seeking direct opportunities for investment and seeking synergy. And apart from innovation in strategies, there is also innovation in different sectors, such as CGT and synthetic biology, as well as Mr. Wu mentioned, cost reduction and efficiency boost innovations. All different types of innovations will help this industry grow in a more healthy way. Time is limited, but we've heard so much already from you. So let's, have a last round of comments about Auman and about Macau and Hanqing. Can you talk about these two new areas? Sure. I believe that, there will be limitless dynamism in these two new areas. We hope to be part of it. Thank you. Mr. Gu? Our investment overseas in biotech and other technologies and would not be possible without policy support. So Macau plus Hanqing as a new policy is a really big bright spot, and we hope that through this policy support, we'll be able to help to facilitate more innovations here in China to be landed. Thank you, Mr. Zhang. Most recently, in life science in China, there's some cooling down in the market, but this time around, Macau plus Hanqing is a real confidence boost for us all. We hope that both our fund as well as our portfolio companies will be able to collaborate even more closely to contribute to the growth of China's life sciences. Mr. Wu, please. Again, as a corporate group, we have high confidence and high hopes for Macau and Hanqing. We hope that there is going to be more opportunities for innovation, leveraging the enormous market in mainland China, as well as some of the policy innovations in Macau. We hope there's going to be more opportunities, and we are very much looking forward to tapping into those opportunities. Thank you so much for your kind words and best wishes. As you all mentioned, in the current climate, there is both opportunities and challenges. In the future, there definitely will be still a lot of space for us to seize new opportunities and go through different cycles to encourage and facilitate high quality growth. Thank you so much for your insights. Thank you all for attending this session. Just a second.
这个航天为什么很少？哦，因为手机长。
手机是长。Hi, Mr. Lee, how are you? Welcome to the second Beyond Expo panel discussion. I'm CGCA news presenter Li Jianhua. For this session, the topic will be the latest technological innovation in medical devices. And today, I'm so pleased to be joined by Ms. Sophie Zhou, Head of Regional Public Affairs of Philips. Welcome.
Thank you.
And also Jerry Guo, General Manager of Mainland China and Hong Kong Abbott Diabetes Care. Thank you so much for joining us, Jerry.
Hello,
and also we have Mr. Li Xianshang, Vice President of Mindry Medical Group. Welcome. A great big welcome to the three of you. And today our topic, as I said just now, the latest technological innovation in medical devices. And we know there have been myriad technological innovations that are driving the transformation of the healthcare sector, like the adoption of cloud product life management, or we call it PLM, 3D printing, and artificial intelligence. So let's go to our only lady here. So Sophie, what do you think is the latest trend in terms of medical devices, you know?
I'm glad to share with the audience today about the Future Health Index 2022, which is the largest global survey as such initiated by Philips, analyzing the top priorities and concerns of almost 3,000 healthcare leaders in 15 countries. We just finished the survey this year, and this year the survey results show healthcare leaders embarking on a reset, refocusing their priorities as the sector emerges from the peak of the pandemic. Assessing this year's survey findings, we see three key themes emerge for this year and beyond. First is improving the staff experience. Second, bridging the gap between the promise of predictive analytics and current usage. Third, addressing threats to healthcare data security. Today, I would like to dive a little bit deeper into the first theme, improving the staff experience. We know how much the staff experience alone can directly impact the performance and the future success of healthcare facility and also patient experience, irrespective of size of the location. With the sector now facing a significant 15 million labor shortage by 2030, with direct impact on quality of life and of care, improving the staff experience has finally become a top priority for today's leaders. So I think the health technology companies should take seriously on this trend, and we do our innovation around these top priorities.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point you mentioned, that is staff experience. Usually we focus on patients, it's all about your patients, but now you reverse it by focusing on your staff experience. And how about Jerry? What do you think is the latest trend of technological innovation in terms of medical devices in your company, in Abbott? I know that you are quite experienced in healthcare industry in the US, Singapore, and China, especially when it comes to diabetes-related diseases.
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all, having me in this panel discussion. And I agree with what Sophie just mentioned. I think that's very interesting, and I think very relevant perspective as well. And based on my experience, I think the one thing I think in terms of the trend, I definitely see less invasive or a non-invasive medical device, because I think this is quite critical. In the past, I would say 20 years, we have seen medical device evolved from, very traditional, very invasive. You have to do a lot of complex operation to what we have today. We have a lot of technology and medical device, basically very, very little invasive. I think that's provide more comfort and convenient to, our patients as well as healthcare professionals. I think another trend we have seen is really about the digitalization of a medical device, because in the past, people think about a digital medical device is more like the equipment we see in the hospital or medical rooms, right? But I think right now I think the industry as well as our customers are really focused on how we can digitalize our medical device. For example, we have seen, using medical device, we can gather more information about our patients, right? We know their health condition much better, so we can make a better diagnosis and better treatment decisions of, through our healthcare professionals. For example, I can give you one example. Abbott is the first company actually came up with a new technology called flash glucose monitoring. So, for example, in the past, we know people with diabetes, they have to prick their finger every day. It's very painful, right? Nobody want to prick their finger and to do the blood sugar testing. But with our basically non-invasive technology, you can wear a small sensor on your arm for 14 days, 2 weeks, and you can see your glucose level, every time, anywhere. So it's give much comfort and convenience to our patients, and also help them to get more information about their diabetes status, so the doctors can make a better medical decision based on the data.
Oh, that's the new device that you have brought out this year, right? When it comes to diabetes.
Actually, we brought this product to China back in 2015. So this year actually is our 6 years anniversary, launch in China. So yeah, so for example, in China, we have over 500,000 patients are using this technology, which is really going to help people to better manage their diabetes and hopefully can prevent the complication of diabetes as well.
Oh, thank you so much. This is very interesting gadgets that you have invented and brought to China right now. And also let's go to Mr. Li here, Vice President of Mindray Medical Group. So what do you think is the latest trend when it comes to medical devices, the innovation of them? I know that Mindray has an array of products, including patient monitoring, ultrasound, radiology, and especially ventilation support devices, especially now when the coronavirus is still there. So ventilation, I know that last year that you have sold a lot of ventilators to India in particular, right? So what do you think is the latest trend right now?
Okay, from my perspective, one of the technology innovation is building a medical ecosystem. So the innovation in a medical ecosystem, including interconnection of medical device to obtain the clinical data, and big data analysis and artificial intelligence. Mindray has done a lot of work in this field. We taking advantage of our multi-product line. We not only build an ecosystem that derived from clinical workflow, so we can achieve the equipment integration and interoperation, and even intelligent closed loop control. I think that's all of these technologies are the trend of the medical innovation. And the goal of the innovation is to improve the quality of clinical diagnosis and treatment, and improve the efficiency of hospital management to support the high quality development of hospital. I think that's one of the trends.
Yeah, the trend as you said, is the new ecosystem. And as Jerry said, that is digitalization, right? And I know when it comes to Philips, Philips believe that distributed care is the future of healthcare. So it is very much related to the ecosystem that Mr. Lee mentioned, also digitalization that Jerry said just now. So what is distributed care? Is it something like ecosystem?
Yeah, I can't agree more with Jerry and Mr. Lee. I think our points are all relevant and towards the same direction. Actually, the trend towards out of hospital care was already well underway before the pandemic. As this year's our Future Health Index report reveals, healthcare leaders now view extending care delivery beyond the hospitals as their highest priority after staff satisfaction and retention. That's because the healthcare cost growing very fast, and there's a growing awareness that in order for healthcare to remain affordable and sustainable, it needs to move into lower cost settings whenever possible to address people's health issues as at a much earlier stage and ideally prevent them. Today, thanks to digital technology, Jerry and Ms. Lee also mentioned, we see the rapid emergence of a new paradigm. We can bring care much closer to the patient, whether this is virtually or physically, at home or in the community. This is what we call distributed care. We have working with our partners around the world to bring many distributed care solutions to the patients through our partnerships, such as mobile intensive care unit, handheld ultrasound scanner, and AI-based ultrasound application, and also clinical grade home-based monitoring solutions, etc. We highly admire and appreciate the commitment of China government in improving accessibility of the basic healthcare in China, and also the application of digital technology in China healthcare. China government did and is doing a great job in providing basic healthcare to 1.3 trillion people in a short period of time. We're inspired. Yeah, we are inspired to see the Health China 2030 strategy also sets targets for early diagnosis and prevention. So it's true that the ecosystem will play a critical role for distributed care. And also, I think in the ecosystem, the insurance will play a critical role.
Insurance, and as you said, it is government driven at this point. And let me jump to Mr. Li Xiansheng. And in 2021, in an interview, he said M-Connect is shaping the future, inspiring a new age of connection and connecting patients with their medical provider. So you talk about the concept of M-Connect. Is M-Connect the ecosystem that you talk about, and also distributed care that Sophie just said? What is M-Connect?
Unconnect is a connection of the medical device, and so we know that the future is the era of big data, but nowadays the volume of clinical data is too much, while the value of data is too little. So on one hand, a medical device generate huge amount of data. But on the other hand, there's too little value information that we can use. So Mandarin's M-Connect solution not only connect medical device, but also convert data into useful information, valuable information. Based on this interconnection, we have established a high quality database using AI technology to get valuable information from big data. And so we can give an early warning score and summary report for the patient. So this solution can help clinicians to understand the patient's status more early, more clearly, and more quickly, so as to make an accurate clinical decision. So I think that's the value of the MConnect.
So Jerry, your expertise is diabetes-related diseases. I know that patients who have diabetes usually need constant monitoring. And of course, data and digitalization could be something big in your industry. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think first of all, the diabetes is really a big threat to the entire global healthcare system, right? Because, for example, if we just look at China itself, right? We have 120 million people in China have a diabetes, right? And that means,
right, 120 million.
Yes, that means 1 out of every 10 people live in China has, a diabetes, which this number is very significant. And also from a healthcare cost perspective, the Chinese government spent over 600 billion RMB a year to treat diabetes-related, complications and disease. So again, diabetes, we all know this is a chronic disease. It's threatening, our overall healthcare system, but more importantly, it's really threatening the entire health of, the global population. And so from that perspective, how we can have a more effective way to prevent diabetes from happening, and also if it happens, how we can slow the progression of diabetes or even reverse the diabetes, I think is a big challenge for the entire healthcare system. But I think it's very doable. For example, I think when we come to diabetes, one thing we have to think about is how to monitor it, right? Because if you don't know your glucose, you don't know you have a diabetes, how are you gonna do the right thing to prevent it from happening or reverse your diabetes progression? So I think technology or innovation plays a big part of it. Mr. Lee just mentioned, big data. We have a lot of data out there, but how we can create a value of the data, I think that's something, I think the industry as well as Abbott have been focused on. I mentioned the product or the technology we developed, which is Freestyle Libre. It gives the patients and our doctors a lot of information, and that information can help the patient to make a better decision. For example, I used to drink, fresh juice, almost every day. And I think it's very healthy. It's probably healthy to some degree, but if you wear a technology can show how your glucose or your blood sugar jump up after you have that glass of fresh juice, you may take a second thought, right? And also, I think from doctors, we know patients want to cut their carbs and they want to take their medications. But how do we know they're actually doing it? But with a continuous glucose monitoring or the new technology we have out there, so doctors actually can sit in their office and see how the patient is doing, their glucose level after the lunch or or the dinner. So that gives doctors a more tools to help make a better intervention with the people potentially have a diabetes. I think that's probably how we're gonna help to reduce the incidence rate of diabetes in the long term.
So you're gonna have this device, this gadgets pretty soon that we can monitor our blood sugar or blood glucose.
Actually, it's already available. Actually, it's already available in China. And we, as I mentioned, we have 500,000 Chinese people are using it. I think the more important thing is after we have this technology, how we can use it by working with the healthcare professionals as well as patients to take the most benefit out of it. Yeah.
So we know that the coronavirus is still rampant and it's still there. So we haven't completely got rid of coronavirus pandemic yet. So how do you think that this pandemic has affected your research and development when it comes to your medical devices, Sophie?
Yeah, I think local innovation is our answer. At Philips, we're not only provide innovative products to customers, but work side by side with our customers to identify and implement meaningful and customized solutions. By moving from a transactional to a transformational relationship, where we together tackle the toughest challenges specific to our customers. So the index, healthcare index survey is the initiative. We take things 2016 across 15 countries. The purpose of the survey is to find out the most critical and prioritized needs of our customers, healthcare decision makers, and then the industry can use the information collected as a reference to work together on the solutions together. China is the second largest market of Philips globally, and we actually went to China since 1920s. We had set up our first joint venture in China since 1985. We are committed to a truly localized global company in China by leveraging global innovation with local insights, driving local innovation and the local manufacturing and partnering to local ecosystems. Philips is now expanding its business footprints in China across end-to-end, covering R&D, manufacturing, go-to-market, sales, and service. Recently, we announced consolidate all innovation resources in China, covering products, system, and software to expand and speed up innovation in China. We have delivered many impactful innovations in China by our local team, including helium-free magnet technology, which tremendously reduces the customer cost and routine maintenance of MR, and the AI recon, 3D camera, and precise intervention technology are created by Philips local CT team to for the value and the performance CT products, not only for China, but also for our global market, aiming to reduce dosage, improve workflow efficiency, and the patient safety. Philips China is fully in line with the government agenda outlined by Health China 2030. We are confident to build a healthy ecosystem in China together with our partners and also with our competitors.
So it is about internationalization and localization here, as you mentioned just now. And Mr. Li Xianshang, so we know that we're talking about the coronavirus pandemic, and of course your company has done a lot of work, especially when it comes to your ventilators. You sold a lot of them to India. And then how do you think that the coronavirus pandemic has affected your research and development? Did you switch a lot of your attention or your focus to some new devices fighting against the pandemic?
Yeah, of course. The COVID-19 is a big challenge for all the companies in medical device industry. And I think all the companies are doing some new product to for the COVID-19. For Manji, we also developed a series of new products, not only for COVID-19, but for the clinical needs. And so our innovation concept is patient centered and clinical need oriented, not for the competition oriented. You know, most of the Chinese companies are competition oriented, but they are a follower. But for Manji, we are not just a follower. We change from the competition oriented to the clinical oriented. We focus on the clinical pinpoint, and well, our innovation is based on the clinical scenario and the workflow, and to improve the quality and the efficiency for diagnosis and treatment for the COVID-19. And we are striving to make Mandarin one of the innovation leader, just like Philips and Abbott. We know that Philips and Abbott are the global leader in the medical industry. So we hope to work together with them to fulfill our commitment to make healthcare within reach for global customer.
Yeah, I like what you said just now, to make healthcare within reach, to make it affordable. So Jerry, do you agree with that? How can we make sure that healthcare management can be affordable? And we've been talking about digitalization and also about like constant monitoring of patients, but it needs a lot of money, to be honest. How can we make sure that medical care can be manageable or can be reachable?
Yeah, definitely. I think I totally agree with Mr. Li just saying. I think accessibility is the critical part of any innovation or medical device, because doesn't matter how good your medical device is, if it cannot be, it's not affordable, cannot be accessible by the patients, it really doesn't provide any value to the society. I think there are probably two things we need to look at. One is when we look at the value of the product, we have to really look at beyond the product itself. Because in many cases, when we have a new technology or innovation come to the market, usually it comes with a higher cost because there's a lot of research and development costs going into that. But when we look at the overall benefit, or especially health economic benefit of the technology, may beyond just the product itself. For example, use our product as example. If we can use the technology to prevent the complication of diabetes, the cost saving on the healthcare system probably is much bigger than probably the cost of the technology itself. So that's something I think that's why I think, regardless the international company or, Chinese company, we have done a lot of health economics, studies trying to demonstrate the value of a medical device or innovation on the entire saving on the healthcare system. I think that's something I think, as the industry, as the payer, as well as the healthcare community, I think we all need to work together to put a very good model to demonstrate what's the true value of innovation. And the second thing I would say, definitely as an international company, we definitely want to make sure we can provide a more affordable, technology to, the patients. I think that's why I think regardless it's Abbott, Philips, or any company out there, we like to work with, the Chinese government to come with, a good system in order to provide affordable healthcare to everybody, in China. So I think that's also come to the 2030, Health China, goal, right? It's not only have the best technology, but also has the best affordability in order to provide the technology to every single, patient in China.
Yeah, you're right. Affordability is always the key when it comes to healthcare industry. So thank you very much for your wonderful discussion on this panel. And we have once again Sophie Zhou. I think because apologies for the bad connection, I think we have lots of Sophie Zhou here. And also Jerry Guo, General Manager, Mainland China Hong Kong Diabetes Care, and also Mr. Li Xiansheng, Vice President of Mainstream Medical Group. Thank you so much. And I hope that this platform could be conducive for you further or probably future or potential collaboration. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Have a nice day.
It's a pleasure to have this opportunity to talk with you, Bichen, about brain-machine interface. First, an introduction to Mr. Han Bichen, who has been a long-term researcher of brain-machine interface since 2015. He's been exploring the R&D as well as, what is the name of your company? It's called BrainCo. Okay. So Dr. Han has also been systematically trained in brain sciences. At least now, he is still in Harvard working on his doctoral research. So he's both a researcher and an entrepreneur. His research results have been applied in industry. So we can already see several results or products such as focus and attention training. And then secondly, bionic legs and hands, so as to help people with disability to recover their bodily functions. And then a third product that he developed was mindfulness in meditation and self-monitoring techniques. So I've learned about these products and services, and I've actually tried some of them. So today, we're going to talk with you, Ms. Dr. Han, not only about your products and services, but also this technology of brain-machine interface, as well as, the types of technologies, its application and scenarios, its use cases, as well as entrepreneurs in this area, the challenges and opportunities you're facing as an entrepreneur. Dr. Han, over to you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Jiang. So let's get started with our conversation. We all know that brain-machine interface is now a hot topic attracting a lot of attention. And I think there are several reasons. One is the growth and development of relevant technologies. And then secondly, as these technologies mature, there are an increasing number of use cases. And then thirdly, there is application and there is entrepreneurship across the world that are emerging. So I have a question for you. So in terms of brain-machine interface technology, what are some of the technology breakthroughs in the past couple of years? And then secondly, with these breakthrough technologies, what are some of the use cases that we can see being applied to achieve very good results? And then thirdly, we all know that the technology pathways are many and varied. There's invasive and non-invasive. So for these two pathways, are they, is there a strict delineation between these two pathways? So these three questions, over to you. Sure. So I think a lot of people might have just heard about brain-machine interface technology because of Elon Musk, who created a company and did quite a bit of publicity stunts with his company. But actually, this industry is a 100-year-old industry. So this is an industry that really started back in 1924 when Dr. Hansberg of Germany first discovered brain signals. This was actually 20 years before computers were invented. and there were no real instruments to capture brain signals back then. So this is a process, a long journey of technological advancement. And in recent years, this technology caught a lot of attention because of a number of reasons. One is because this is an eruption period or stage of transfer, knowledge transfer from the academia to the industry. Actually, in this industry, there have been a number of interesting stories. For example, Dr. Philip Kundin, who is very curious about his own brain and about human brain. So he did surgeries. He actually embedded two devices into his own brain back in 2014 so that he can actually feel the sensation of signals in his brain, but there was also a contamination risk. So actually he took it out later on, and he started America's National Brain Project in 2014 to encourage technologies to be transferred to the industry. So in 2015, I created BrainCo. Elon Musk only created his company in 2016. So to respond to your second question, use cases. Companies, of course, would need to look at commercialization and use cases. In terms of invasive and non-invasive pathways, they actually address different issues. Invasive pathways actually address severe cases of brain diseases, especially Parkinson's disease, ARS, as well as entire body paralysis. Whereas non-invasive pathways basically use neural adjustments to address depression, insomnia, and autism, as well as help people with disabilities to be equipped with bionic legs and hands. So in the industry, some of the mature products can be categorized into three types. One is for lab usage, and this is actually a quite sizable industry. A lot of labs would use such devices. And then secondly, for non-invasive devices, they do a number of different user cases. For example, to help people fall asleep, to alleviate anxiety, and also help with bionic legs and hands. And then thirdly, invasive devices are used to cure brain diseases, such as to use EVS. So that's just a brief response to your questions. So I have a follow-up question on the first question. So you talked about how things have been moving very quickly. So I have a more academic question here. What are some of the breakthroughs in the technology in R&D or academic research? I think, machine brain interface is actually a highly interdisciplinary study. It actually needs sensors, which probably is, whether it's spikes or brain waves. These are very, very weak signals. So you need very, very good sensors to be able to capture these. Invasive methods basically inserts a device into the brain to be able to capture such electric signals. But because the brains cannot embrace these foreign objects into it. So if you look at Elon Musk's press conferences, he talked about 4 breakthroughs. One is regarding slides. So whether in the academia or in the industry, the first breakthrough has to do with signal sending and receiving. And then second breakthrough is with signal analysis and interpretation. So you need to use algorithms to decipher brain waves and signals. And by becoming what can be done in 1 month now can be done within 30 minutes. So that has also facilitated people's understanding about brain signals. So we talked about sensors, we talked about electrodes, and the material with which the sensors are made, and which need to be very sensitive. And also, we talked about how the membranes should minimize the injury. Talked about analyzing the signals, which has to do with AI solutions and even involving large amounts of computing data or computing power. So I have a very straightforward question here. You started your company, Brainco, in 2015, and you have a very clear business goal, which is to do non-invasive products. So you already talked about sensors for, over these years, especially in the past couple of years. What are some of the breakthroughs? This is a conversation, so let's make it interactive. And then secondly, in terms of brain signal collection and signal analysis, and you need to reduce a lot of noises and to create relationships to precisely apply these signals. So what have you been doing in the past couple of years? So you asked several great questions. At Brainco, we are a 7-year-old company today. We spent, half of our history to achieve breakthroughs with sensors and algorithms. So in the first half of our history, we didn't really make any real products. I was a student back then when we still had an older generation of sensors, which you need to place an order with, and you need to use very complex devices to collaborate. So it was very inefficient. Basically, what we did is to create a solid state sensor collection or sensor data collection platform so that you don't need to actually physically touch your brain. You don't actually need to have a haircut to be able to use our product. Right. So previously, I actually need to do a lot of haircuts, and we would use bald people as our favorite subjects. But today, you don't need to use that anymore because we already developed a new platform. So it's touchless today. And then secondly, you also asked a question regarding the variations between different individuals and different reactions in the real world.
Well, say if you take artificial limb, for example, or artificial arm, for example, well, actually, we take signals from the brain and try to interpret the meaning of the brain signals to control the artificial arm. But different people lost his arm for different reasons. Some lost his arms in accidents. Some were born with some sort of handicapture. So we need a very accurate and very sensitive sensors to collect information, to collect the signals from the arm. So our users will have to wear this artificial hand to face different types of real life scenarios. Let's say maybe have to take up a shovel in a very cold environment to try to clean up the snow, or maybe sitting in an office using the artificial fingers to type the keyboard. The difficult thing is to collect the sensitive signals from the arm and to interpret these signals correctly. For a product-oriented company, we believe that the technology must be tested in real life scenario. So the breakthroughs we've made in the past couple of years are obtained or were obtained in the real life scenario. We're getting more and more understanding or deeper understanding of the human signal.
期待咱们这个非介入式的脑机接口的技术呢，能够更多的达到它的预期。那么正是有这样一个
Of course, we want to see more breakthroughs in the brain-computer interface. And of course, we have to raise very strict standards because it has something to do related to the brain. We just talked about the non-invasive sensors and how the sensors capture brain wave or break signals. Some experts believe that there is some sort of limitation. Have you heard my question? Oh, good. Well, I should just your image just halted for a split of a second. Some experts believe that there is always limitation to the non-invasive brainwave sensor. Well, there's a limit to its sensitivity compared to invasive probe. Sometimes we need to collect the signals from not just one functional area or functional section, because the brain works in a way far more complicated than we human being can conceive it. So many believe that there is limitation to brain-computer interface or brain signal sensors. What's your point of view on that? I'm talking about the non-invasive sensors or probe. I quite agree with that kind of observation. Compared with the invasive sensors or probes, the quality of the signals connected by the non-invasive sensors is far more inferior to that. If you have an invasive probe, that means you can take a microphone into the buildings and collect the sound waves from each and everyone living in this building. But for non-invasive sensors, it's just like we're using kind of sound collecting systems outside the building and trying to collect the sound from inside the building. Some American experts believe that as long as I can get enough information from the brain with very strong algorithm, we can accurately interpret the meaning of the brain signal. So that's the ideology, or that's the mindset in the eastern part of the United States. But in the western part of the United States, the experts there believe that we must use invasive probe to insert the sensors into the human brain. I think they represent two thoughts of two school of thoughts and two technological paths. Well, I think both technological paths have their pros and cons. Take invasive probe, for example, where the cost of the open head surgery is very expensive. The risks entailed in this regard are very high. In the second press release conference, Elon Musk said that he can install 2 neural link on the pig's brain, meaning he can drill 2 holes inside in the brain of the pig. Oh, actually, that means that you want to understand what the people is thinking about. You need to implant several invasive probes. Because when you're thinking, when you're trying to solve a very complicated problems, you need to collect a lot of signals from different parts of the human brain. Well, it's practically infeasible and impossible. You can't insert 1,000 invasive probes into the human brain. But for non-invasive probe, well, you can put a lot of sensors around the human brain. Before the invasive probe, which you can just collect signal from one single point. You probably heard another technology. Which is called the brain imaging technology. Fudan University, well, probably you heard about it, has established a brain research center in Zhangjiang. They're using the imaging technologies to study the brain. Of course, they accumulated a huge amount of data. Well, I think the basic or the fundamental logic is pretty similar to yours. No matter whether it's probe or imaging technologies, we're trying these technologies to get signals from the brain, and then we process these signals and extract information from the data so collected. The brain imaging technology basically follow the same logic. Sometimes when the patient in coma, some of them can recover very quickly, some will take a very long time to wake up. So we can use brain imaging technologies to understand why there is so different wake-up period for different patients. There are invasive technology, non-invasive technology, and brain imaging technology. So have you ever focused on the brain imaging technology? Well, brain imaging technology is also a kind of non-invasive probing technology. Well, they can also define it as a sort of brain-computer interface. Cerebral electricity or cerebral brain is just one part of the brain signals. You can use other machines, CT, MRI, to scan your brain to get the information. There used to be a laboratory in Japan. They use a device to the MRI to scan the subject's brain while the subject is imagining a lion. Well, I once was a participant in this test, and the brain scanning can tell me whether I'm thinking of a noun or a verb. And he can also tell, the test could also tell whether I'm thinking in English or thinking in Chinese. Just my additional remarks. You carry on. Brain imaging or cerebral electricity, they're biomarkers at different dimension. If you take EEG of the brain, you can extract multidimensional information from the brain. You can take the cerebral voltage. Well, these are all the types of non-invasive technology. The functional MRI can scan the spatial structure of the brain. You put 2 probe on the top of your head, the signals might interfere with each other, but using brain imaging technology, you can detect the signal or locate the signals to a very accurate spatial position. If you're thinking of an image, the certain part of your brain will be very active, and the signals can be detected by brain imaging technology. Well, I'm positive about this brain imaging technology. I believe they can achieve a very high level of accuracy. So you're all following the non-invasive technology path. I'm just curious, as someone who raised questions to you. So is there a possibility that you will collaborate with your brain imaging technology in the future? Well, of course. We're doing a lot of tests. We can scale up these tests, but we got a product to help the autism children to improve their social skills. There's a special function, a brain function, a brain wave that is closely related to your sociability. Let's say if you have a very strong wave in that section, you got a strong social skill. If you don't have that wave in your brain, you don't have any social skill. So we're using the product to stimulate that brain wave in the autism children. Well, some of the audience are familiar with the brain-computer interface technology, some are not. So tell us, how do you generate or stimulate or enhance that kind of sudden brain wave to enhance the social skills of that autism children? So first of all, we got a device. You can mount the device on your head. Or this device will detect the brain wave constantly, among which we're trying to extract the mu wave from the data collected. Clinical research clinical research in the past 50 years show that this mu wave is closely related to one's social skill. If you can modulate that mu wave to a certain format, you can enhance the sociability of that child. So we just install that device on a child's brain. That kind of a wave modulation. Once the social skill of the child is enhanced, well, this product is like this. So when the mu wave is modulated, the child will be more prone to enter into a conversation with others. We did a clinical research last year on 28 autism children, and we can see that there is a significant improvement over the social skills. Some of the children can say a complete sentence for the first time in their life in the test, in the trial. So probably before the children can only spit out individual words, but after using the device, they can say a complete sentence. It was a moving moment. But yeah, we'd love to see what kind of we'd love to use imaging technologies to understand what is happening in the brain of the autism children. Which part of the brain is activated? We've been doing a lot of work in this regard, in this field. The brain-computer interface is considered a blue sea market from a commercial perspective. But you just told me that you can help to enhance the social skills for autism children. Well, you can also use exoskeleton for the physically challenged population using your technology. Of course, they have other, the technology has other practical applications. As an entrepreneur, as a business operator,
投入应用的过程当中，它所激发的市场的这样一个潜力，是符合
how
你的
big
预
is
期
the market? How big is the market for these technologies or these devices? Is there a gap between that expectation and the real market size? So if that gap exists, what caused the gap?
对于我们公司青岛科技 Brinco 来言，其实我们从一开始
So Brinco, we're a group of people who are very good at planning. Most of us are researchers doing scientific researches for a very long period of time. So before we launch any product, we got a very clear plan. We start with some crucial pain point, something that must be addressed or fixed, some problem that must be fixed. And later on, we can scale up our application. Just recently, we changed our mission. That is to improve the life quality of 1 billion people. There are 1 billion patients who suffered from some sort of brain malfunctions. Can you give us a specific example? Just one example. You just told us that you want 1 billion. You want to improve the life quality of 1 billion patients who suffered from some sort of brain malfunction. Well, 1 billion is a big number. China, the population in China is just 1.4 billion. So can you give us a specific example so that we can have some sort of hands-on experience to understand that you're doing something really tangible for that 1 billion patients? Just one example, okay? Can you hear me, Mr. Jiang, Professor Jiang? Yes, yes. Statistics show that 30% of the population suffer from some sort of sleeping disorders. 30% of the adults suffer from sleeping disorder. If you can't sleep well, what could you do in the past? You just suffer from it. Or you take sleeping pills, other types of medicines. And thirdly, you can do some sort of sleep monitoring in hospitals. You have your brainwave scan. Well, it took us 3 to 4 years to develop the product that can put it in deep sleep mode in a very short period of time. Well, basically, we're using the brainwave interference method to replace the sleeping pill or other types of medications. Well, this is a large group of population. Right now in the United States, we're developing a very precise device to try to fix the problem of mental dementia among the senior citizens, senile population. Talking about medical spending, well, 30% of the spending goes to some sort of disorders related to human brain. I hope that in a lifetime, our products can cover 1 billion people. We're talking about the senile dementia. I have some follow-up questions. When you answer my first question, you told me that the rapid development of the brain-computer interface was built on 90 years of theoretical and practical research.
But we know that, a lot of the research have been, proved to be wrong. For example, the mechanism for the Alzheimer's disease. So do you also face such a conundrum in your research? When there is an issue, a faulty type of research would you would use or people would use to guide their product R&D? Would that happen? Yes, definitely. That's a conundrum because all of the underlying fundamental research starts with an industry research or survey. So basically, you look at the best papers, the most quoted or cited papers in the sector to serve as the foundation of your R&D. But for people like us who have been trained in this academic discipline, we tend to be very skeptical of these papers. So we tend to be very critical in our literature review. And as you said, in the area of Alzheimer's disease, currently a lot of the old theories have been overturned. And at least, 300 medications are entering clinical trials for dementia. And each medication could take as much as $2 billion to develop. And currently, there's only one medication that's been FDA approved, but it's not yet widely used because of certain issues. So the widespread use of medication is more like sifting through so many possibilities. And brain, there are two types of exchange mechanisms. One is based on chemical materials, and the second is through electromagnetic mechanisms. So it could also be that, using electromagnetic approach, especially in the Gatsby's lab, basically they published an article in Nature. It's called Game Changer. Basically, it's a pun. It talks about both their game in their experiment as well as the industry landscape that they're trying to change. So medication is an important solution, but there's also other types of approaches, especially by overturning previous theories. People are now seeking alternative therapies other than medications. To some extent, these technologies can actually be transferred. So my question next up to you, whether you're talking about 500 million people or 1 billion people, you're developing solutions to address various challenges. But in terms of knowledge transfer or technology transfer, I'd like to pick your brain and see what you think. What do you mean specifically by technology transfer? For example, research on animals. So our very first project at Brainco was based on the idea of a device for dogs, because I'm very curious about dogs' brains. I'm very interested in its, I think dogs have very complex emotional capabilities, but it's just because they don't have language. So it's very limited. So I wanted to develop a sensor to be able to understand their emotions. But the reason why we ended up giving up on that project is because we did a survey, and basically it's a huge market. It's $7 billion of market, but it's large. It's highly differentiated species. For example, there's a teddy. There is also another type of very big dog, very large dog. So it's very hard to develop a standardized product. Whereas for humans, our heads are of very similar shapes and sizes. for adults. So we gave up on that project, but I remain very interested. Understood. So without disclosing your business secrets, I'd like to understand what are some of the issues or questions that are, that are, what are some of the things that you don't do? What markets, what applications will you not touch? For some severe brain diseases that must be operated on, we don't touch upon those types of disease. For example, Parkinson's disease, ALS. These types of diseases won't require deep intervention or deep brain stimulation. And then when you search for this concept, you would see that nobody knows the actual mechanism, the working mechanisms of these approaches. It's just inserting a needle and exerting electricity, but you don't really know why it works. So for these types of things, we will not touch. Our approach is still very much based on clinical sciences. For questions such as autism, anxiety, depression, attention, insomnia, those are the things that we will work on. How about mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder? You talked about insomnia, of course, but for these types of psychological and mental health issues, are you going to work on these? Last year, we had signed a strategic collaboration agreement with Anding Hospital of Beijing, which is a leader in the intervention and treatment of depression in China. So basically, they can help us screen through people or populations with depression. And traditionally, you will use scales with a lot of stimulating questions. For example, what was the last time you wanted to inflict self-harm? And these questions tend to be quite negative. So we are thinking about using more objective ways to diagnose depression. For example, showing certain scenarios to people with and without depression and getting different responses. If there are such scenarios that can achieve this effect, it will help us diagnose depression. A lot of people are experiencing a lot of pressure and depression, and they don't know how to address it. And they might even be unaware of their own issues. So it's very important for us to work on this. So we don't have very much time left for this session. So maybe a few final questions. So as a leading company in non-invasive brain-computer interface technologies, based on your observation of the industry, what are some of the bottlenecks or major challenges facing not only your company, BrainCo, but also your peers in the industry? For this industry, some of the initial challenges has to do with access to resources, because very few people have even heard about brain-computer interface. I would give a 2-hour lecture to investors, and they think I'm working on some supernatural forces rather than sciences. Now we have secured about 1 billion RMB of funding, but the process has been very challenging. Today, people know more about this industry, especially with Elon Musk's company. So it's easier for this industry now to access funding and resources. But today, the biggest challenge is how to scale from sort of a startup with just 1 or 2 or 3 people in a lab to a real business that would require manufacturing. We are now working, for example, a manufacturer that used to produce computer chips for NVIDIA, which requires, of course, a very high level of precision. And we really require this type of precision and very, very low defect rates in order for us to be able to translate lab experiments to a commercialized products for hundreds of millions of people to use, to be applied in numerous scenarios. That perhaps is the biggest challenge today because there is so much unpredictability, because it has to do with people's brains and neurons. So perhaps this is the biggest challenge today. Sometimes we jokingly would say that and just to work on a bionic hand for people with disabilities, we would have all of our hair fall. So yes, indeed, you do a lot of experiments. It's very hard work. And you also talked about investment of resources and also manufacturing, how to reduce defect rates to ensure your products are highly universal, not just for your experiment lab subjects, but for the mass public. Yeah, I do have another question that's technical. So most of the applications are really end users. You don't really need to, for example, transmit data to your back office. Is that correct? It really depends on the specific use case. For bionic hands and legs, prosthetics, these are locally communicated. The data are kept local. But for autism and other types of brain-related diseases, those data are communicated to our back office. Thank you so much, Dr. Han, for coming to this discussion and sharing all of your insights unreservedly. And I think that's a great overview, provided a great overview for our audiences to understand BrainCo and what you're doing, as well as the brain-computer interface industry. Thank you again, Dr. Han Bichen. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Zhang.
好，大家下午好。那我是 Beyond 的联合创始人卢刚。那么今
Good
天是
afternoon,
我
I'm the co-founder of Beyond Expo.
生命科学峰会的最后一个板块。那么
This is going to be the last discussion or last session for the Life Science Summit. We're building this Beyond Expo because we wanted to build it into a highland for scientific innovation in the Asia-Pacific region. And we're trying to foster the development of an ecosystem that connecting all stakeholders together throughout the whole day of the Life Science Summit. We've got a lot of insights from experts, professionals, and discussants. I do believe that you have learned quite a lot from our conferences and summits. This is the last item on our today's agenda. I think in the current market context, international collaboration is of crucial importance. So we're trying to discuss the topic of how to make full use of international collaboration to foster innovation in the healthcare sector. I do believe that this is going to be an important topic. We're talking about this industry, we're talking about the future. So together we will be working toward a new future. So I'm really happy to have with us the panelists. Jamie Zhang, the Vice President and Head of Access Excellence of Takeda China. Wu Shan, Executive Director of Franchise Head of Breast Cancer of Oncology Business Unit of AstraZeneca China. And Zhang Wenze, Vincent Zhang, CFO and Head of Compliance of Livzon Bio. And Yu Jiali, Chief Investment Officer of International Finance Corporation. Last but not least, we're really happy to have with us as the chairperson of this session for this Liu Chang, the project head of Health and Healthcare China World Economic Forum. Now over to you, Madam Liu. Oh, thank you very much for your introduction, and I'm really happy to have this opportunity to discuss the important topic of international collaboration and how this international collaboration to support the innovation in the healthcare industry. We got limited time, so without further ado, I would like to throw the questions on you to stimulate a heated discussions among us. I think the discussions need to follow around the main topic of international collaboration. And the starting point is anchored on the Greater Bay Area strategy in China. We can discuss how international capital can move into China and how can Chinese companies explore international markets. So I'm going to throw my first question to Jamie, my old friend, Takeda China. Does he have any business presence in Greater Bay Area? How the local policy support the utilization of your product or the launch of your products in Greater Bay Area? Hello, my name is Jamie Zhang from Takeda China. We've been enjoying a rapid development in the past 2 years. We launched 3 to 4 new products into the Chinese market every year. Rapid approval, rapid market launch, and rapid access by the patients are some of the key issues we're trying to address day in, day out. I do believe that there are favorable policies in the Greater Bay Area that attracted a lot of companies to establish their business presence there. We got a novel product to address digestive diseases, and we're trying to launch that product in the Greater Bay Area. Why Greater Bay Area? Because we identify the opportunities right there. If our products can be registered in the Greater Bay Area, it can have direct access in Macau and Hong Kong. I believe the Food and Drug Administration in Macau is very supportive of our application. And very soon we got the approval, and our products was delivered to the Macau market pretty soon. And I hope that this product will be launched into the Greater Bay Area market in the near future. We're all experts in this regard, so as Carrie put it, that international collaboration or cross-border collaboration is very important. Inside the company, there is internal collaboration between the mainland team, Macau team, and the Hong Kong team. Externally, our suppliers are collaborating among mainland China, Hong Kong, Macau.
就是怎么样能够确保OK 我们在澳门批的这个产品是能够的确满足到大湾区的这个政策，它的这个
and also the regulatory approval in Macau can be accepted in the totality of the Greater Bay Area.
进到大湾区来惠及患者，当然还有更多的关于这个临床这一块的那个医生的一些合作。
Of course, we also engaged in the collaboration with clinicians.
我们希望能够在大湾区也有医生非常有兴趣使用，但是毕竟大家都还没有这一款药。
I hope that there will be clinicians in the Greater Bay Area who are interested in using this new medicine.
一些理解和认识，能够怎么样互联互通，帮助他们以最快的速度可以真的用上中国的患者。所以在这里面
I really hope that we can, speed up the process in which we can bring the product to the Chinese market as quickly as possible. You see that there are many areas open up for international collaboration. Don't forget about the payment issue. In the Greater Bay Area, there's possibility to try some new policies. Some of the products can address the very urgent and mass clinical needs in China. And these products are these medicines are very expensive because they are the first class, high quality medicine in the international market.
特药险啊，特别是海外特药险啊，这样子的一些品种。
So, some of the insurance policies are introduced into the Greater Bay Area to establish some sort of payment mechanisms to cover the cost of medicine for the patients. So that basically wraps up my intervention. Thank you. Well, thank you, Jimmy. I think you talked about many interesting things. You just talked about one product, yet it has a lot of ripple effect over the different stakeholders in the whole ecosystem. Yeah, this is a tiny example, but it is very reflective and informative. And Madam Bushan, do you have anything to share with us from AstraZeneca? And do you encounter similar problems as encountered by Takeda? Well, I think we ran into similar issues as Jenny described. Take a look at the product pipeline in AZ. Yes, we have many new products in different product pipelines, and they got registration in the United States and in Europe. And the approval for these products in China are just lag behind that in the United States and Europe. Some of the products are desperately needed in China. We just got a product a couple of years ago, which was approved in the Greater Bay Area. It addresses the problem of asthma, especially the severe symptom of asthma. There's no substitute of that medicine in mainland China. Well, our product is successfully registered, approved in the Greater Bay Area, and has already bring medical benefit, health benefit to the local patients. In oncology, in breast cancer, in the area of breast cancer, you probably heard of a product that addresses the HER2 vial target. Well, AZ is collaborating with a third-party supplier to promote the registration of this product. We're not trying to see whether this product can be approved in the Greater Bay Area because it can really meet the unmet clinical needs in China. It significantly can improve the life expectancy of the breast cancer patients in the next 2 to 3 years. We're trying very hard to establish early access for our products. Of course, there are many pain points because most of these products are very expensive because they're the best in class or the first in class products in international community. And the affordability is a big issue for the Chinese patient. And the good news is that for the product I just told you, they can address the HER2 late stage or advanced breast cancer. The cost of the medicine can be covered by some insurance policies. For example, Huiminbao. We hope that this type of arrangement can be extended to other products to bring more hope of life to a wider customer or patient base. Well, for the patients, the worst scenario is that there is a kind of medicine available in the market, but it cannot afford it. Well, for AZ, our China team and the mainland team is just one team. There were a lot of internal collaboration. And there are a lot of academic exchange between the Hong Kong team and our mainland team. But because of this pandemic issues, we don't have a lot of opportunities for face-to-face exchange or interactions. But I can still see that there are a lot of online or virtual interactions among the doctors and clinicians to, well, jointly fix the problems for the patients. I hope that this kind of virtual platforms can help the Chinese clinicians to better treat their patients. Well, these are some of the things we're doing, and very interesting indeed. Wushan talked about some structural innovation and structural cooperation, and how this kind of structural cooperation and innovation can help patients to find a better therapeutic solution. Also, she mentioned the payment system, the Huiminbao and other policy or insurance policies are some of the solutions to help the patients to cover the cost of the novel medicine. We need different stakeholders to join in to solve these problems. Mr. Zhang. Your company is just a local company in Zhuhai. So the question is, how can you make good use of the favorable policies in the Greater Bay Area? Well, thank you very much for asking the question. I think the previous two speakers, they represent international pharmaceutical companies, and Livzone Bio is a representative of a domestic and a Chinese pharmaceutical company. I once came across a report showing that China contributed to more than 8% of the R&D research and development in the pharmaceutical industry in the world. The Greater Bay Area is just a portion or a part or an integral part of the road and belt system. The company is deeply rooted in the city of Zhuhai, the local market. We also believe that there are multiple ways to carry out collaboration. While in the past, licensing, license out were the primary model of collaboration for life science companies. But right now, we're seeing a growing number of opportunities in the upstream, downstream collaboration, and in the whole life cycle of whole life cycle management of the product. And of course, collaboration is made possible in the area of API, in public data, in a whole lot of sectors. Well, take us, for example, since the outbreak of the pandemic, we have committed a lot of research we've committed a lot of resources in the research of recombinant protein, and starting from last year, we conducted the phase 3 clinical trials in Malaysia, in Southeast Asian countries. And so far, we've got very high quality clinical data from 50,000 subjects. Well, the quality of the data is so high that it was unimaginable in the past. Another observation is that in the Greater Bay Area, including countries around the Greater Bay Area, there is a significant improvement in the protection of intellectual property rights. The BCT actually, there is a growing tension focused on the registration of intellectual property rights in the Greater Bay Area. And our vaccine was approved in China, and we're trying to obtain regulatory approval for our vaccines in Southeast Asian countries. Well, I think there are a lot of supplementarity and complementarity between the Greater Bay Area and Southeast Asian countries. I'll elaborate on that point later on. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Zhang. Well, very interesting points indeed. One is the model for cooperation, or diversified models for cooperation, the collaboration between upstream and downstream, and the whole product life cycle management. One, vertical collaboration, horizontal collaboration. Well, there are multiple opportunities for cooperation. And you're also talking about the improving environment for the protection of intellectual property rights, which is a crucial point. While we're doing the innovation, we want our intellectual property rights to be protected. We want the reward for our innovation. Otherwise, we won't have continued resources for further innovation. Madam Yu, as a Chief Investment Officer, based on your experience, in promoting international collaboration, in helping international companies to go into China, and helping the Chinese companies to seek international market, what are some of your experience that you can share with us? Well, IFC is a subsidiary to the World Bank Group. I believe that you are quite familiar with the World Bank. China is also a stakeholder or shareholder of the World Bank. The World Bank provides a lot of subsidies and financial support to many projects. For IFC, we offer financial support to private companies in the developing countries, including equity investment and long-term loan. In the healthcare industry, probably IFC is the largest fund investors in the health sectors in developing countries. We made investment in over 300 companies in 70 countries ever since the outbreak of the pandemic. IFC earmarked $12 billion as loans to support the companies that manufacture vaccines and other medical devices, the protective gears and clothes, ventilators, so on and so forth. In the past 1 year or so, we supported 8 or 9 leading companies in these sectors to help them to increase the production capacity to offer PPE to developing countries. My workplace is in Hong Kong. I just wrapped up a 5-week journey in Chinese mainland, and I visited more than 10 pharmaceutical companies or medical companies.
So I see a lot of companies trying to go global. So this is a new trend for Chinese pharmaceutical companies. And I see that the motivation behind that has to do both with local and international factors. On a local perspective, because competition is becoming increasingly homogenized and drug prices are going down, and that has motivated Chinese companies to go abroad. And then also, drug prices are declining overall in China, especially with public insurance negotiations as well as centralized procurement. We see a significant decline in drug prices in China. And then secondly, pharmaceutical competition is becoming increasingly fierce with a lot of similar products. So it's no longer realistic to rely on just one product to achieve profitability. For example, half of COVID vaccines and treatments are being developed here in China. And then thirdly, Chinese pharma companies are also becoming more competitive. They're achieving leapfrogs to be able to go global. For example, the number of new innovative drugs and also FDA-approved new drugs from China is increasing. And currently, China is leading the world in this regard. And also with transfer medicine, as well as the construction of new infrastructure are also some of the forte for China. On an international perspective, there is great potential in overseas markets. Traditionally, North America and Europe are where the innovative drugs come from. But now there is new growth from Asia, as well as with the patent and IP protection mechanism becoming more mature. Pharmaceutical companies will now be able to enjoy better protection. And also, advanced economies have a more mature payer system. So that also gives Chinese pharma companies more room in terms of pricing their products. An additional factor has to do with the supply chain conflicts that has led to domestication for supply chain. So, for example, traditionally, Indonesia relies on China for 70% of its API before the pandemic. So now, with the COVID pandemic ongoing, they are seeking domestication of API production. So that's just one example. There are similar motivations that are also driving Chinese pharma companies to join the process of global supply chain transformations so that these Chinese companies can produce locally in other markets. We are also seeing a lot of challenges being faced by Chinese pharma companies going global. One has to do with funding. But additionally, these companies sort of are a latecomer in this going global movement. And also, there is COVID as well as uncertainties because of geopolitical tensions. And then there is supply chain challenges and low level of commercialization capabilities, lack of understanding of local cultures and customs, as well as technological barriers and lack of competitiveness with core products, and also challenges or lack of experience in clinical trial applications, and registration. So there is both funding issues, there's also more soft power issues. So at IFC, we can do the following. One, and with funding, we are providing long-term financial support, for example, long-term loans, and a 7-year loan, which is quite rare in the capital market. In addition to that, we also tailor-make some consultative services for our customers, especially with market entry or go-to-market strategy. For example, recently, we are working with some clients who are trying to go to Africa and Southeast Asia. For example, in Southeast Asia, they're working on Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam. And in Africa, they're working on Egypt, Morocco, and Kenya. So we're helping them understand the macroeconomic environments in those countries, as well as their medical regulation environment. And on a micro level, we're also helping them understand different medical segments, the competitive dynamisms in those sectors. So we're providing comprehensive references for these customers so as to help them with decision making in terms of where to enter. So we do provide consultative services in addition to funding. Additionally, based on the characteristics of different regions, we also do some regional projects. For example, with ASEAN countries, IFC is working with World Bank to provide research support on vaccine manufacturing and localization, because ASEAN countries want to be able to produce their own vaccines, to have this industry value chain built for domesticated vaccines. So we are working with various vaccine makers, including those from China, to identify the pain points in the market, as well as the challenges in the regulatory environment. So again, we are providing targeted consultation. In Africa, we led in the building of a platform for funding for healthcare, connecting local hospitals, which are buyers of equipment, with local banks, as well as equipment and device providers, which can include MNCs, as well as Chinese medical devices providers. So basically, we make these entities in this platform for risk sharing. So if a local hospital gets a loan from a local bank, we provide 50% guarantee. Supposing, in the worst case scenario, the device provider would only need to shoulder 10% of loss. So that helps device providers to quickly reach many African customers. And these African customers will also have the opportunity to access the most cost-effective products, including those from China. So in the past couple of years, this is what we've been doing at IFC. That's a very comprehensive intro. At some point, I'd also like to understand some of the ASEAN local policies later on. Also your insights on the Greater Bay Area of China. But before that, I'd like to turn to Jamie. So we talked a lot about developmental pain points and problems faced by everyone. So for you, or for Takeda China, here in China and in the Greater Bay Area, what are some of your expectations policy-wise what are some of the breakthroughs that
谢
you'd
谢
like to
Terry。
see
对，其
policy-wise?
实刚几位嘉宾的分享真的都让我大开眼
Sure,
界啊。
I've learned so
然
much
后我是
from
觉得这是
the
这几
guest
年，其实大
speakers'
湾区的政策真的，
insights. In the past
其实
couple
已
of
经一
years,
次又一次刷新了
you
我们的
know,
认知，其实是跑在了
there's
我们
been
大家
so
的期
many
望值的前面，
breakthroughs
所以我们还是很受
in
政
terms
策
of
和鼓舞
policy
的。
here in the greater
然
Bay
后
Area,
再就是
Greater
已
Bay Area.
经
So
非
we've been
常
highly motivated
努力
and
往前推
encouraged by
动的
these
政
new
策的这个背景
developments.
下面，当然我们是觉得就是这个政策是可以
So
随
of
着我们大家
course,
做的
we
事情越来
believe
越多，
that
其实
these
刚刚我们4个人每个
policies
人都讲
will
了我们在努
evolve
力
as
做
we
的一
do
些方
more
向
and
啊，
more.
就是随着它这些事情的落地，一定会
And
有
as
更
these
多的一些
policies
政
are
策，无论是大方
implemented,
向上呢，还
we
是细节
believe
实操上
that
的，是需
there
要
will
与时
be
俱进
even
的哈。
more
所以说呢，
policies
的确在这上
that
面
are
我
relevant
可能比较细
to
啊，但是我能够想到的，
this
比如
world.
说支付，
I can
刚
think
刚
of
大
a
家都
few
提到了，
points.
因为
For
如果
example, payment,
最终还是
which I already
要
mentioned earlier,
付得起、买得起、用得
because you want
起
to
才
make
能
your
用得上，
products
对吧？
affordable
所以说支
and
付可能是我
accessible
们
to
最期
your
待的一个
customers
一个
and
一个
patients.
政
So payment is
不光是
something that
政策
we
上
care
吧，
a
也是
lot
我
about,
们其
not in
实不
terms
同
from
的这
not
个
only from a
行
policy
业
standpoint,
sector 不同
but
的
also
player
from
大家之间的一个
an industry
合作
player
配合和
standpoint,
创新，
because we
这是
do
一块。
collaborate among
除了这个之
different
外，其实
industry
还有很
peers.
多，比如说，其实刚刚我们丽
Apart
珠
from
的张
payment,
总，还有我
I think
们
there's also a
事业银
number
行的
of
于总，
other
其实都有
dimensions.
提到
Both
关于疫苗这
Mr.
一
Zhang
块。
from
那我不
Live
知道
Zone
我的理
and
解是不是最新
also
的，好像我们大湾区的政策对于疫苗的
Miss
这一
Yu
块，
from
就海外的这个疫
IFC,
苗
you both
进
talked
来的这
about
一块，可能还
vaccination.
是
So I don't
跟
know if
药
my understanding is
不
correct,
不是
but
同等的一
I
个
believe that vaccine is not
对
at the
待
same
哈。
level
那
of
有没有可
other
能
medications
我们的疫苗可
in
以往
terms of
ASEAN
being
countries 东盟这边
introduced in
有
China.
很多的
So
发
I
展
don't
空
know
间。那
whether
同样
there's
的， 比
going to
如
be
说
a
像
lot
我
of
们公
room
司
for
今
us
年
to
其实就
grow
有一
in
款，就
ASEAN
世界上第一
countries
款就是面
for
向4 个
vaccines.
病毒株
Currently,
的登革热
we
疫苗
have a
在印尼刚刚
we
获
have
批。
just
那这是
got approved a
我觉得在今年就是特别的
quadrivalent
适应这个环境的需
vaccine for
求，
the
因为
dengue
今年登革热
fever
其实
in
在蛮多
Africa.
国家
This
其实造
year,
成了蛮大的一
dengue
个伤害。
fever caused a lot
那
of
在
harm
这样
in
子的
many
一个背景
countries.
前提下面，
So
登革热过
against
去在
this
我们国家，其实在南部，
context,
特别是有一
in
些省
southern
份，其实在某
China,
些年份也
there
造成了
are
很大的一个
some
伤害。
provinces
那
that
有
have
没有可能
also
我们也
suffered
可
from the
以
dengue fever
走得出去也
in the
挺得进来？
past. So we want to be able
这
to
也是我
introduce
们可以希
that,
望
treat
其
such
实这个药可
indications.
以通过
But
我们那么好的政
at
策进
the
来，
Greater
但是其
Bay
实
Area,
它还
we
是不
can
是一个在中国已
introduce
经被获批
this
的药。
medication
那我们到
that's
底在
not
什么样
already
子的政
approved
策
in
法规框
China.
架下面
So
可以
under what
跟
kind
医
of
生以
legal
及说
and
相关的一
regulatory
些
framework can we
那个
work
专
with
家可
physicians and
以
experts
更好的讲解这些病，
to
科普这些
better
病，然后科普这
explain
些药的使用。
what these
这
diseases
其
are
实是一
and
个
how
小细
these
节，但是也
medications
是我
can be
们希望
used.
在政策法
This
规
is a
上面可
very
以给
tiny
予我们大
issue,
家
but we do
更多的
hope
指导的一个
that
方向。因为
we'll
其
be
实这
able
个
to
事
get
情
more
是需要
guidance
做，
in
但是
terms
怎
of
么样
how
能
to
够合
do
法
it,
合规的
because
做，
this
我
is
们也
something
是
that needs to
很
be
需要这一
done,
块的
but
指
we
导
need to be
啊。
able to do it
然后
in a
还有其实
compliant
更
way.
practical 的，我
Another
们知
even
道其
more
实乐成
practical
在这几年
point
的这个
has to do with
不
the
断的那
the
个推陈
Boao
出新中，
Hope
它
City.
现在是可以带药离园3个月的一个
Basically,
药量，口服的药是可以离园
patients
的。
are able
那
to
这个其实
leave
在
Hope
很多
City
药
with
其
3
实也是非
months
常需要的，因
of
为可能患者也
portions of
并不是说在
medication
这个生
with
活
the
里头
new
在大湾
medicine.
区的
Because
患者，
you know
那
patients
他
do not
有
necessarily
的是
live
口服药，
in
那
Hope
怎么样可
City,
以
and
离
some
园？
of
这
these
可能是一
medications
块
are
政策，还
oral
有注射的这些，那有没有可能
medications.
可以
Some of
通过
them are
一些
injectables.
医院集
So we are
团或
thinking
者
about
说医
possibilities
生
of
多点
working
职
with
业之间
hospital
的一
groups
些
as well
配
as
合和协作，
physicians that are
实现
practicing
可以
at multiple
让
sites
患者不仅在大湾区
to
能够
help
用上这个药，
patients
并
not
且能
only
够
be
证
able to
实
use
是
such
一个
medications
很
in
不
the
错的
Greater
药，
Bay
很
Area,
适合
but
他之后
also
可以能够让他
elsewhere
回
in
到家还是
China,
可以继续用这个药。所
especially
以
when such
我举了3个
medications
就比较
prove
细
to
的
be
细节
effective
吧，
for
然后这
them.
也是我们可
So
以希望在
these
各
are
个方
just
方面呢可
3
以
examples that
一
I
起
can
去
think
推
of
进的。谢
that
谢。
we can further improve on and work collaboratively on. Thank you for your insights. You talked about a dengue fever vaccination and how we should, stay relevant with this world. We all know that the climate change is having big impacts on populations, especially in those climate sensitive regions. There's a lot of relevant diseases, and we need relevant policies to be able to address them. So thank you so much, Jamie, for your wonderful insights. Over to you, Wushan. what are some of your expectations for policies? I agree very much with what Mr. Zhou just said. This year we received a new update on the policy, so it's much easier today to introduce new medication because we are entering the Hong Kong market very soon. So I've been learning about Hong Kong. And also I learned about certain medications that are available here in the mainland, but not yet in Hong Kong. So I'm thinking about achieving mutual availability here in China and in Hong Kong, not only to bring great pharmaceuticals into China, but also to bring it to the Hong Kong market. So, these are some of the things that I've observed myself or heard from my colleagues. Also in Greater Bay Area, we've accumulated some great use case experience. So these are targeted at individuals, but I'm hoping that these will have also a policy implication. For example, in terms of safety and efficacy observations, whether these observations can accelerate the approval process for other similar medications. But again, I think this is a two-way process. I hope that experience can be shared. And also with the Hong Kong authorities for medication, basically they are allowing mainland doctors from class 3A hospitals to be able to practice in the Hong Kong market. So I hope that knowledge will be shared and doctors will be shared. And with policy allowing these, I believe that there will be greater impact. At AstraZeneca, starting from 2019, we've been working on some innovative, smart healthcare solutions. So we're not just limiting our focus on medications, but also other solutions. Starting in 21 with Wuxi City, we are working also in Guangzhou, Shanghai, and Chengdu. Last month, we opened our innovation center. So in the future, in Guangzhou, we are seeing a lot of new opportunities. So we want to work with ecosystem partners to innovate, but also receive policy support. From an R&D perspective, we hope to see more acceleration for approval and registration. And AstraZeneca also has a investment fund. I hope that it will also play a bigger role. I heard a few keywords that are very important. For example, two-way availability. You're not only in the mainland, but also Hong Kong. So that's a great concept. And then secondly, I'm quite surprised that now doctor expertise can be shared. And then thirdly, I've also learned that you're focusing on building the ecosystem rather than individual solution, but more a ecosystem-wide solution for our patients. Thank you, Wushan. Over to you, Mr. Zhang. As a pioneer of a local pharmaceutical company from China to go global, what are some of your expectations for the Greater Bay Area? So I listened very closely to Ms. Wu from AstraZeneca, as well as Ms. Zhang from Takeda. And I think probably I can summarize what you said in a few words, which is going out and introduce in. So whether it's a MNC or a local company, we all face some shared challenges. So both of you mentioned how vaccines localization as well as introduction. This is a problem that we are facing as well. So with ASEAN countries, we have great advantage and proximity of working with ASEAN countries at Greater Bay Area. In history, we have a long history of working with ASEAN countries.
还是时间都要低很多啊，而且大家时区比较相近，沟通起来。
Well, what's more, we're in the same time zone, and it's relatively easier to communicate with each other. There's very frequent people-to-people exchange within this region before the outbreak of the pandemic. Indeed, my company has established very tight business connections with our partners in Southeast Asian country. Well, last year, we exported one of our Chinese product to the Southeast Asian country market. Well, my company was established in 1985. It is one of the earliest established large-scale pharmaceutical companies in the Great Bay Area. We lived through the rapid development of the Great Bay Area in the past 30 years. I do believe that we received a lot of support from the Greater Bay Area, and this support is getting stronger and stronger. There's a talent pool, there is favorable policy, there is a supportive industry, tax exemption, favorable tax policies. All these things are contributing to the rapid growth of my company. Well, ever since the outbreak of the pandemic, of course, the companies inside the Greater Bay Area encountered some difficulties. In my company, for example, we need to import some critical material, some cultural base, some fillers, and some virus-related equipment. We need to import a lot of these materials from the outside market. But the speed of custom clearance slowed down a lot due to the outbreak of the pandemic. I do believe that the government has taken a number of measures to try to maintain the speed of custom clearance, but I still hope that there is a faster custom clearance speed. In terms of export, China has signed a lot of trade agreement with many countries and regions around the world. But as to the registration of new drugs, there are different sets of rules in different regions and different countries around the world. I do hope that the Greater Bay Area government can formulate better policies to help us to export or seek approval and registration of the products we developed in China in other parts of the world. Well, Zhuhai is geographically close to Macau. So Zhuhai is also a window through which you can have access to the Chinese market. The Macau SAR government, as well as the Beyond Expo, would love to make very good use of Macau to help more pharmaceutical companies to explore international market, but we do need detailed policies. We hope that the Greater Bay Area can offer more detailed policies to support the life science companies and pharmaceutical companies in the Greater Bay Area. Thank you, Mr. Zhang, for your sharing. Explore international market and introduce the foreign capital to China. Very good. And Madam Yu, can you share with us your expectations for the future of Greater Bay Area? The other three panelists are senior management members in charge of the business operation of their company. IFC as an investor in the emerging market, we approach the market from a slightly different angle. For example, in Macau and Hong Kong, we don't have any investment projects because we mainly focus on emerging markets. I can tell you that in the past 10 years, the evolution of our investment strategy by IFC in China, in the first 10 years, we made a lot of investment in a medical services project. This is a period of time where we can see a lot of industrial development in the healthcare sector. Ever since the outbreak of the pandemic, we zoom in medical devices, especially the COVID-related companies. In the near future, we're going to help the Chinese medical devices companies to seek international market, especially in the developing markets. We will encourage the Chinese medical devices manufacturers to localize the production of these devices in emerging markets. Well, due to the structural change in the global supply chain and as a result of geopolitical tension, the more and more developing countries will have a higher requirement for local supply chain management. I think the Chinese medical devices manufacturers should follow that mega trend and make an investment in local manufacturing capacity in developing markets. We love to provide long-term investment support. We also love to offer market access, advices, and consultancy. We can also help the Chinese companies to establish contact with local government in emerging markets, because we have established a representative office in a lot of emerging markets, in a lot of developing countries. Some of these representative offices were established 20 or 30 years ago, so they got a lot of insights into the local markets. I hope that in the future we'll be helping Chinese companies to explore international markets.
各位刚刚对于不管是从角度还是从企业，我们说到了我们现在做的事情。
Panelists give a lot of interesting discussions from different angles. We talked about our pain points. We talked about our expectations for the Greater Bay Area, especially in terms of the federal policies. Thank you very much for your candid sharing. I can wrap up very quickly. That is cooperation and sharing. These are two key words, two magic words. IFC as an international organizations can help the Chinese government, Chinese companies to better explore international market and help to introduce more international products into the Chinese market, so that we can really establish a high quality medical service system. Thank you very much for sharing, and I hope this discussion is inspiring and informative. And have a nice weekend. Thank you. Bye bye.